Let's cue the music and start that word chat.
Hey everybody, welcome to that word chat. I am so tired. It's been such a long week. There was an eclipse yesterday. I was camping last night, just got back from the woods, cleaned up quickly. And Erin Brenner has had such an amazing week too. We're going to talk all about that. Erin is a good friend of the show. She was our original associate producer. In the beginning, helped us get started and on our feet. She is now back as a guest. She's editor, or she's author of the book, The Chicago Guide for Freelance Editors: How to Take Care of Your Business, Your Clients, and Yourself from Startup to Sustainability. So long titles sell more books, I guess. But The Chicago Guide for Freelance Editors. I'm so proud. I'm thrilled. Erin, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so excited to be here. And that is a long title.
It is. But it's, I mean, it delivers. I've looked through it. How to take care of your business, your clients, and yourself. Three legs on the stool from startup to sustainability. So it's not a beginner's book. It's sustainability. There's stuff for me in here.
Absolutely. The first third of the book is really about getting started, right? What do you want to do? Do you have the skills? What business structure? All those kinds of questions we think about at the beginning. But the rest of the book is really for anybody with a freelance business. And I think we can all, use tips from time to time, or just reminders, stop and think about, oh, maybe I've been doing something for so long now and I can do it better. I can do it more efficiently and run my business a little better and be a little happier with it.
Yeah, happy is good. So what's the reaction? It's not out yet, right? It publishes at the end of the month?
Right. So the official release date is April 30th. If you pre-order from the Chicago Press, they're shipping them now. Otherwise, if you bought them from anyone else, they'll ship on April 30th.
Right. And I didn't have this one. I had the preview version. I was going to say I should have had you sign this, but I had the other version I could have had you sign. We were together last week in San Diego for the American Copy Editors, ACES, the Society for Editing conference. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because I've got nothing planned. Like I said, I was in the woods this morning. So, there was quite a bit of excitement there beyond the book release. And I saw you signing some books at the University of Chicago Press table. Let me share my screen, and I think this is Adrian Montgomery's picture, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
what's going on here. Oh, sorry.
That's Lori Paxamatis's picture.
Okay.
She was the only other member of the quad at ACES.
Oh, Adrian wasn't. What am I? See, this is where my brain is. I mean, if Adrian were there, that would have been a major event. She hasn't been doing ACES in a few years.
Right. She's up in Canada.
Yeah.
So this is the Robinson Prize, which I won for this year.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, how many people have said it's about time?
A lot of people.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Robinson Prize is kind of ACES, the biggest prize the organization gives to sort of an editor of the year, somebody who's outstanding in their craft and has contributed to editing. We have a few, I think we have more than one. Adrian's not winner. I think we have a few winners of the Robinson Prize probably in the room today. But it's one a year, and it's the I think I like to think it's one of the most prestigious awards in the editing field. And it's chosen by, it's not, I mean, so I knew you won it and had to keep my mouth shut for just a couple of weeks, because as a board member, we don't hear who the winner is until, pretty much it's a done deal. And sort of as a courtesy, the committee lets us know that it was you. And of course, there was a lot of cheering when we heard that news. So, let's start with that. What have you heard from people in terms of congratulations?
In general, that it's been, it's very well deserved. It feels weird to tell you what other people are saying about me, but,
Yeah, that's true.
but yeah, that they appreciate what I've done in the community, in editing, and that they thought it was high time, which is very well appreciated.
Yeah. Okay. And how many quad members? The quad. Actually, let's back up. Let's explain briefly the quad, and then tell me how many quad members are Robinson Award winners.
So the quad is a mastermind group. There are 7 of us in it. Adrian Montgomery, who's up in Canada, and she didn't win the Robinson Prize. She has won the Karen Virag Award from Editors Canada, which is a very similar Editor of the Year kind of award. So there's Adrian, there's Catherine O'More Clough, who's in the room today, and she won the Robinson Prize. Lori, Amy Schneider, who last year published the Chicago Guide to Fiction Editing. Laura Poole, and Sarah Gray, who won the Robinson Prize after Catherine, but still several years ago now, I think.
They all blend together after a while.
They do.
And so, you mentioned Laura Poole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Laura Poole was on the committee. So was that a fix? Like, did you have to pay her to
No.
How did that work?
She let me know that she was heading up the committee, and she would hear I would hear nothing else from her. Period. Right. So I had no idea, and I didn't ask her. Nobody wants to pressure a friend into anything. But she also didn't vote. So there's a committee, and she was leading it. She organized them, but because she knew at least one of the nominees, she did not vote.
Yes. Yeah, I was about to say that she was asked by ACE's board to head the committee this year before we knew who the applicants were, and she sort of organized but didn't participate in the voting part of it. So, although I imagine she was a little bit thrilled at the way it went out.
She was.
Yeah. So let's get back to the book, because we are going to just keep jumping around totally randomly. And if you have any questions for Erin about the Robinson Prize, the book, how to take care of your business, your clients, and yourself from startup to sustainability, or anything else for somebody who's been sort of an important part of our business for 20 years, just ask in the room, and we'll try to get your questions for Erin. Let me go back to that. I said 20 years. How long have you been active in copy editing and in the sort of the general field of copy editing?
So I started as a proofreader in, I have to think, I think it was 98.
In the book, let me.
It probably is. But I had a couple, I started as a proofreader in 98. I worked that for a few years. I switched to copy editing and I had office jobs. Um, I started freelancing in 2005 and that was only part-time. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Did I want to make that shift? Did I want to stay as an employee? It took me 4 years to make that decision. So clearly I wasn't rushing anything. But in 2009, I quit my day job and started really pushing hard on right touch editing. And I've been doing that ever since.
Right. So that's yeah, not quite 20 years, but no, just about coming up on an anniversary year. So was it hard?
Gosh, it was super hard. Um, it was. I mean, we knew I was going to make this leap, so we saved what we could. We had two young kids at home. My husband had a good job, so we knew insurance was coming from him. Um, I had been doing some freelancing part-time, so I had a place to start from, but you're really building everything from scratch. And it is a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I don't think I took a day off for 3 years, which I do not recommend. I don't recommend doing it the way I did it. It was exhausting. Um, Catherine Omar Clough was my first mentor as a freelancer. And she helped me make some of those first decisions and help me organize myself and see myself as a professional. So that was a great relief. It took me 3 or 4 years to replace that full-time salary. And I was at the desk every day. If I didn't
Mhm.
have client work, I was working on the business. I knew I wanted to write a blog. So when I first started, I was writing 3 posts a day. No, I'm sorry, 3 posts a week. And that still
Mhm.
was a lot.
Mhm.
2009, it wasn't you weren't seeing as many language related or editor related blogs. So there was space for it. But boy, does that burn you out fast.
Yeah, well, I used to write for copy editing, and it was a constant. And as a freelancer, that's hard. So
Mhm.
that's my biggest thing, and I'm sure I'm gonna read about this in the book. But the balance thing, and I think most freelancers would agree. You spend so much time doing the marketing,
Mhm.
doing and I count the blogging in
Oh
as
yeah.
that. I consider that word chat sort of a marketing thing, although it's really more labor of love than anything. Um, so, and then there's also the fun stuff. I think most editors go down rabbit holes, not because we're forced down there, but because we think, well, that's interesting. Let me dig in a little bit deeper. And then you realize, wait a second, I really don't need to be digging this deep. I can just put a query and say, is this correct? But so how do you do the balance? And of course you have two young sons at home. So how do you balance all that?
It was hard. It was really hard. And the last chapter of the book is about self-care. And it's really about the things I wish I had done and things I figured out how to do in the last few years. Making sure that you know what helps you keep going, getting enough sleep, taking time off. We feel this enormous pressure to keep going, going, going. And it's going to happen when it happens, right? Your business is going to come together. You have to work at it, right? You have to be consistent, but doing it 24/7 is not going to make it a success any sooner. And in fact, it's going to harm your business because you're going to become exhausted. So it's learning to juggle your schedule. What are your priorities? Um, One of the things 2015 through like 2018, I think, maybe even earlier than that, um, I had to take hours off in the afternoon. I'd go pick up the kids, but my younger son needed more homework support. And so I really wasn't working from like 2 to 5 every day. So I could sit there with him. And sometimes it meant I wasn't working as much as I could, but it was worth it to me. But I'll figure out how to balance my budget. right? Well, I'll cut something else out. It was more important for me to be a hands-on mom in those moments, and maybe earn less money or work early evening or weekends to make up the time so that I could use my time where I wanted to. One of the things I talk about early in the book is defining success. I think, particularly here in the States, we think success means having a lot of clients and making a lot of money. And while we have to do, we're all, most of us are doing this to make a living, and that's a baseline. But, success doesn't have to mean making a certain amount of money beyond what you need. It might be being able to sit down with your kid and for 2 or 3 hours to do homework. It might be taking care of another family member. It might be traveling the world, whatever it is. That's part of your definition of success. And I really encourage people to figure that out and to try things out. What would success mean for you? And to keep that in mind as you move forward in your business.
So you feel successful?
I do. I do. I feel like I could always earn more money and I can always have more clients, but I get to live the life I want to do and I have fun with it. I get to go to conferences. I get to hang out with other editors whom I find, I just find joy in that. I get to organize my life the way I want to. And I got asked to write a book, which I thought was very exciting.
Let me go back to the beginning. I'm always curious about community, and there was I realized when I became a freelance editor that there was a community. Aces was there first, but Aces was actually not there first. Twitter was sort of there first, and Aces I got to know you early on, and Kathy O'More Clough early on. That was always important to me. But you're 5 years ahead of me, I think, about starting out. And I came from a newspaper background, and you came from a different background. But what was your first community, or what was it like when you started out? Were you alone?
Yeah, when I first started, I was pretty isolated. I had been a copy editor at a website for about a decade, and I was the only copy editor. When I started, there was a small staff, and by the time I left, it was just me. So it was kind of lonely. But like you, Mark, Twitter was a big part of me connecting with the community in the early days. Just all the editors you could find there. I thought that was fantastic. And I think
I don't know.
Facebook groups kind of followed thereafter. But
Mhm.
Aces was a huge part of that.
Yeah, I don't remember if we met on Twitter, like most people I know, or if we met at an ACES conference. But I remember we've been friends from the ACES conferences going back many years now, 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. My first conference was the Phoenix conference, and you
Right.
introduced yourself to me,
Mhm.
and we sat down and had coffee and just chatted, and that was um, that was a great moment because I felt welcomed at this place where I knew nobody. But as the weekend wore on, you start to meet people and you become comfortable. And you go, oh yeah, I
Mhm.
know who these people are, and um, having you reach out like that was so important to me. It meant a lot.
So for the young people in the room, Twitter, what we're talking about, Twitter is a social media platform that used to exist. It's now known as X, and I think it's probably less friendly than where it was. And actually, I mean, early days, I don't know when Twitter started, but we were new. It was our thing. It was like, um, something that we were figuring out as we went along. The days before where you typed RT to indicate something was a retweet.
That's
Um,
right.
but I'm not doing social media like I was before. Um, You created for the conference a thread on, I don't know if it's called a thread, but on Blue Sky
Mhm.
with the conference hashtag, and there was some good stuff there, but it was not nearly what it was in the past. It was, I think, social spread out. Um, so the question I'm getting to is, where do people go to find community? Is it harder now, easier?
I think it's different. Twitter was wide open and there weren't as many options. The first Facebook groups were huge, and there are still some of them that are huge. And I think what we as a society have learned is that can be overwhelming and it can be hard to manage and it can be hard to have strong relationships there. Not impossible, but it's harder. And so what I see us doing is going into a lot of smaller closed groups. A lot of groups on
Mhm.
Slack, a lot of groups on Discord, and in other places. And we're much more spread out. I think it can be harder to find them if you don't already know somebody. Um, I think that's why something like Blue Sky is still important, to have an open place where you can at least get your feet wet and learn about maybe these smaller groups where there's more activity going on.
Mhm. Who were you mentioned Catherine O'Moore Clough as somebody who was a mentor um, in the beginning. Who were, other than quad members, who were your heroes in copy editing?
Oh, um, oh gosh, that's tough.
We can come back to
I
that one.
admire so many people.
Take a commercial break. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Gwendolyn Nichols was the editor of the copyediting newsletter before me, and I always learned so much from her. She is so smart. She knows so much about language. She knows so much about editing. I had taken copyediting used to do these in-person one-day workshops, and every time they came around to the Boston area, I went. She had so much knowledge. So I looked up to her. Um, who else? There have been bosses over the years. I've been very lucky when I was working for companies. I had bosses who were just really good at nurturing and training. Um, Sandy Cummings was my manager over at IDC back in the day, and she really taught me how to copy edit. I had taken classes, I had read books, and she was our managing editor. When she came on board, she read behind everybody.
Mhm.
And I learned so much from her edits. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that because you just can't get that kind of experience anymore.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's great to have that person looking over your stuff. I know when I edited when I wrote, excuse me, for copyediting.com, I was having my stuff edited, which is so nice to have, to not be putting stuff out there without. I mean, I send the emails for that word chat. I don't. There's always something in there. I
Oh,
sometimes I manage to grab somebody and say, please look at this, but um, yeah, I mean, we're not I guess we're not that great with our own writing, but even to have edited something and have somebody else edit it, or have two people. I mean, this is actually probably a great exercise to have a trusted colleague edit something that you edit and then compare them
absolutely.
and see, there are going to be things that they catch that you didn't. There's going to be a lot of nuance about, approach. Um, okay, cool idea. Mark that down. And I should, Wendell Nichols is now at Cambridge, and she's been on the show doing our Word of the Year talk. So she's still active in the field. Um, see, so you were at the conference in San Diego. You were signing books at the University of Chicago Press table. I don't think I made it over for the book signing. I'm not sure where I was at that time, but what was what was it like, and what what kind of feedback did you get from the participants there?
It was surreal is what it was, right? You never think you're going to be the one sitting there signing books for other
Yeah.
people. So it was very surreal. But people were just excited to have a book to help guide them in their business. They were excited to read it. It's heartening to see editors take the business side of it seriously. I think it's
Yeah.
sometimes tough to do that. And just to be excited about, administrative stuff. Business can be boring.
It
But
took me a few years to, well, I say it took me like I've managed it, but I don't have a good business acumen, I wouldn't say.
my hope is that the book will help folks get a better business acumen, because I don't think it's native, right? We're so focused on our edits and words and making things as good as they can be. You have to remember the business side of it, because that's what puts food on the table.
Right, right. So what was it mostly new people, or was it, I'm sure a lot of veterans who knew you wanted to get a copy of it?
It was a nice mix. People I knew and had known for a while, and people I didn't know.
Yeah. Any early indicator? I mean, do you know? I guess you can start looking at like early sales and numbers on Amazon and that sort of thing.
Well, so then because the book isn't out yet, yeah, the numbers aren't available. So I have
Yeah.
no idea. I know
Okay.
we sold a good deal of books at Aces, which was great. I was so grateful they could get some books to us. But yeah, I don't really have an idea yet of how many we've pre-sold.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody in the audience picks it up. It's really, I have not had a chance to thoroughly read it. I had it on the plane with me, but I had some sleeping to do on the plane. Actually, no, on the way to the conference, I had editing to do because everything as a freelancer, it's hard to control when things come in. And then
Mm-hmm.
on the way back, I did some serious sleeping. So, but I've looked through the book and it looks terrific, and I'm looking forward to digging into it. Um, I wanted to ask you about uh, one thing that's sort of off topic. We just came back. We were both at the American Copy Editors Society conference, and there were a couple of big revelations. One was AP. I would say the biggest one with AP was they're switching to Merriam-Webster as their main dictionary. I
Mm-hmm.
get excited about dictionaries, but what were your reaction to that?
Oh, I'm so excited about it. I am. My clients are either AP folks or Chicago folks, and to have to think about two different dictionaries as well as two different style guides,
Hmm.
just the efficiency of only having to look at one dictionary makes me excited. But I think Merriam-Webster is a fantastic book, and they're always adding to it. They're keeping up to date. Um, and I don't know, I just think it's a great dictionary. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. I don't have to try and juggle two dictionaries in my head.
Yeah. Hmm. And then the other big thing there was maybe a little bit under the radar because that sort of was the big news is um, that you don't have to, that unique is not necessarily an absolute in AP style.
Right. So for so long, that was an AP rule where, you follow the definition of unique that said it's the one and only. There's nothing else like it. And AP has finally come around to the second sense of the word, which is, it's something extraordinary, but it's not the only one. And I was glad to see them um, update their information and come in line with how we actually use the word.
I'm I'm a bit more of a stickler. I'm not sure I'm totally on board, but it's undeniable that somewhat unique and totally unique and this is more unique than that's not unusual. I guess I'll come around. And then Chicago Manual Style. That word chat was we did a show from San Diego talking to Russell Harper from Chicago Manual of Style about updates to the 18th edition. Any thoughts? As I assume we can call you a power user of CMOS. Any thoughts on the changes?
So far, the changes I've seen, I think, are great. I'm always having to look up. So now they're calling headline style title case, but
Mhm.
I was always having to look up how many letters
Yeah.
a preposition had to be in order to uppercase or lowercase it. And I always personally, when I followed their title case strictly, I thought it looked odd. It's a personal
Sometimes it
preference.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. And you really can't get hung up like on that stuff when you're an editor. It's whatever the client wants, whatever the company wants, and
Right.
you're trying to follow the style as closely as you can. But I'm really, I'm really glad I can uppercase about and without and through.
Yeah.
Um,
A big one for me was, and I guess I finally learned it, but is the uppercase if it's a complete sentence after a colon, because AP style is to do that,
yes.
and that's nice to not have to. I once did
Perignon
it.
has to update AP versus Chicago because that was one of those differences.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
Or
I'm
Karen's.
glad Chicago is following AP now. It's much easier.
Yeah, it's nice to know they look at each other, they read
Hmm.
each other, and because they say that they look at what the others are doing, and they look at APA, and they're all following usage rather than trying to figure out, like maybe sometimes in the past, what is correct and
Hmm.
is not so correct. Um, I think we have a question from the room now.
We do. This question is from Patty. Do you want to unmute and ask?
Hi, Erin. Congratulations.
Thank
In
you, Patty.
person, sort of. Erin, I was thinking about this. How did you connect with Chicago? Did they seek you out? Did you send a proposal? I'm a little curious, Kit, if you could talk about the
Mhm.
very beginnings of your publishing book. Thanks.
Sure. They actually reached out to me. I had done some peer review um, of another book in the Chicago line, so it was enough to put me on their radar. And Mary Lauer reached out to me and asked if this was something I wanted to do. And I thought for all of what, 10 seconds? Yes, yes, I want to do this. Of course I do.
And was that the topic?
Yeah, Chicago wanted to put out this book. They wanted to put out something for freelancers on how to run a business. And so when they came to me, I was like, absolutely, this is something I love to talk about. I do think I'm good at business, and I at least enjoy it a lot. So I'm very enthusiastic. So yeah, I was thrilled to be asked, and I'm very grateful to Mary for walking me through the process, because there's an assumption that, well, you're an editor, you must know about books and book production. And the fact is, I've never worked for a publishing house or a book packager. The only books I've done have been self-published or published with really small publishers who do their own thing. And even then, I don't do a huge amount of them. So books were a whole new world for me. It was a fabulous learning experience.
And I always ask my authors, authors who are editors, what was it like working with an editor?
Oh, it was awesome. When I was um, leading copy editing, I wrote a lot of copy and I was edited there. And we had two copy editors and two proofreaders for the newsletter. So everything got edited as much as we could. And I've always found it to be a great learning experience. I started to, you can start to see your writing ticks. You can see different
Hmm.
ways to do things. And as as an editor, I know that all edits are suggestions. And so I felt comfortable when I thought, when looking at a change. If I really didn't like it, if I really had a reason that I don't think that really works, I felt okay not accepting it. But most of the time with the book, I had a fabulous editor, Erin DeWitt. She did Amy's book as well, and she just really knows her stuff. And she was great at helping me with paragraphs because most of the writing I do,
Paragraphs.
well, most of the writing I do is on websites. So you write really short paragraphs. And I'm really in that zone of a paragraph only has 2 or 3 lines, period. And she would help me with suggestions of where to put smaller paragraphs together so that they flow the way a book would have them flow. They're longer. And it seems strange to me, but her guidance was great. I really appreciated the process.
Interesting. So you said you accepted in 10 seconds. Did you have this book in your head at all beforehand?
No, I had done some writing, I've done some speaking on the topic.
Mhm.
So I had things to go to when I started putting together the proposal and the outline. But I hadn't been thinking I was going to write a book about it.
Right. You did a marketing book for CIEP.
Hmm.
And some
That
wasn't.
is marketing yourself, strategies to promote your editorial business.
And you've been active in CIEP for a number of years now. I think you must have been to 4 conferences, something like that.
At least I've been over there as much as I can because I love the
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah,
And
that's perfect.
it's a nice conference. It's much smaller than ACES, so it's a different vibe. Um, but yeah, I love the conference. It's comfortable. There's a lot to learn,
Right.
and the CIAP does these guides. They there's a lot of them for helping you in your career, and this was a I think third edition. So I was working with the previous edition. Um, really updating it because of course since it was last published there's been a lot of changes in how we market ourselves digitally especially, and so there was a lot of rewriting involved in adding more copy, but I did that over the summer, and it
Mhm.
just came out at the beginning of this year. It was a
Oh,
fun project.
yeah. And you've also written for copy editing, which you used to
Yes.
own, right?
Yep.
Um, the grammar tune-up workbook.
So
And
the grammar tune-up workbook was an example of a one-day conference that copy editing used to do back in the day. Wendy Nichols had done it, and it was content that was just kind of sitting around. And I said, well, let's get it out there. And so I revised it. Most of it is still Wendy's work, which is why the byline is edited by Erin Brenner. But I added context. I think I updated some of the exercises and fleshed them out. But that was quite a project. We did that totally independently at copy editing and self-published it. But it was a great opportunity to give editors some exercises beyond the basics that we can usually find. Usually when you get a grammar workbook, it's the basic exercises as opposed to things that editors look at every day, and get maybe a little bit deeper into usage and grammar. So that was a fun project.
yeah. So what? Look back 20 years. I'll say 20 years. It seems about uh, seems appropriate. What were there? Were there mistakes? I mean, what was the biggest mistake in that you learned? The biggest lesson learned that you maybe share in the book or think others should know about?
So I kept making this mistake where I would try and run more than one business or do more than one kind of full-time gig at a time. Uh, it can work for some people. It never, ever worked for me. Um, when I was first freelancing, we needed additional income while I grew the business. And so the first thing I set out to do, and I don't think I talked about it in the book, was early childhood music education, where
Really?
you do music classes with little kids and you just teach them. You're singing most of the time, but you're teaching them rhythm and um, the joy of music. And those were fun classes, but it essentially was starting another business. So I was trying to grow two businesses at the same time, and it did not work. I wasn't getting anywhere with either one, and I was exhausted. And while Music Garden was fun, it wasn't where I wanted to be. So I stopped doing that, and I just got a nighttime job at the mall where
Oh,
I
really?
where I
It's
could
kind of
earn.
a,
Yeah, I worked at Williams-Sonoma, nights and weekends. It was a way to earn some extra money, but leave me energy and time to really focus on my business. And like I
oh,
say, it maybe some people could do the juggle. I couldn't do the juggle, not and be a parent. And I kept doing that to myself, where I would overload my schedule and try and do two big projects or at a time and wonder why I wouldn't make any progress because I couldn't
mhm,
focus.
mhm. Yeah, focus is an issue. Um, so is there something related here? You worked a nighttime job at Williams Sonoma. You have a son who's studying food as a chef. Was there a thing there?
We like to eat in my house.
Okay.
But no, I I think for him part of it was uh, we were mean parents. We made our kids learn how to cook and have a cook night every week.
Ah. Mhm.
So he got exposed to it and he found something he really enjoyed. So
So do you have a music background to have done this thing? No,
no,
just an
I
educational
did
thing.
some training. Um, it, there were week-long intensive classes and learning how to do this. And I did okay, but I wasn't great at it. I don't have a music background. So it was a relief when I could say, I'm not doing this anymore. This is my last class. I'm done. I felt so much relief. Oh, okay. When you feel relief, when you let something go, that's a sign you're doing the right thing.
Mhm. Well, I don't think I've ever heard you sing um,
That's
that I
probably going to stay
recall.
that way.
Okay, hopes there, but so over that time, I'm sure you've uh, there are many ways that you've changed. Um, you mentioned a few things that you've learned sort of recently, or that you've included in the book. You did things maybe the wrong way sometimes. Um, what's changed most, say, in your approach to? Let's talk about editing, not about the business side of it. But what's changed in your approach to editing over the years?
It's easier to let things go, to not agonize over all the little details because none of the work I do is something where the content is going to be life or death. I mean, certainly if you're working on medical texts, it matters. It matters a lot. I work on business copy and marketing copy, and while it's important to my clients and um, certainly results happen from your edits, nobody's going to die over them. And errors are going to be there and it's okay. Good enough is sometimes what we can do. You get done what you can in the time you can and you move on. And being able to adapt to that and not tie myself up into knots and trying to make it perfect has just made editing more enjoyable. It's made me a calmer person and I'm still giving my clients the best editing we can in the time we have with the materials we have.
So what are the pet peeves though you've had trouble letting go? For me, uh, I'm still going to put a note with most unique when I see it in the copy. Is there something that rankles you that you say, oh, I wish I wish I could be the prescriptivist of years ago.
Parallel structure in a vertical list. It really
That's not a pet. That's a legitimate
well,
demand.
but I mean, we do our best, right? But there
Yeah.
have been occasions where it is just not possible because of whatever's going on in that text. It's just really, really not going to happen. And yeah, you gotta let it go. But I hate letting it go.
Yeah. If you have any questions, I think we've got about just 10 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions for Erin, while we've got her, we'll certainly ask. Just let us know in the room. So what about the field itself of editing, and whether it's business or the word part of it? How do you see it different now than it was 15, 20 years ago?
I think we're growing up as an industry, right? We're really developing. There was a time where you learned editing in an office from the senior editor. And those were the editors you knew. We are more connected now. And it's not to say organizations didn't exist in the past, but with the digital environment, social media, we're all more connected. And while we've lost a lot of terms of jobs and learning on the job, there are now so many more programs to learn editing. The organizations are doing more and more for their members. Individuals are they're not just writing books, they're creating courses and doing coaching. And, in that way, they're earning a living, but also helping, supporting other editors. And we're just all really advancing what the field is, what it can be. And I'm really excited to see it. I'm excited to see what's possible and what other people can do. I love that.
So what about you? What's next for you after the book
So
promotion?
I am working on a workbook that will be a companion to this book, so that if you are someone who is working through the chapters and you're trying to get some of these concepts down, the worksheets will help you do that. And from there, I'm hoping to create coursework. I offer one-on-one coaching as well. So I'm hoping to do more of that as people work their way through the book. If you're getting stuck or you want somebody on the journey with you, I want to be doing more of that. And beyond that, I would like to write another book.
And what would that book be?
I want to write about all how we're taking our businesses beyond that sustainability part, right? You get to a point, you're doing the editing and you're making a living. But if you're like me, you go, okay, now what? I'm bored. What else can I do? And to talk about, not just editing agencies, but the partnerships you can do, the talk about coaching and teaching and all these other things that we're doing as an industry, and help people understand what that is and what maybe is possible for them.
I want to ask you about coaching and teaching, but we have a question from the room we want to get to first.
We do. Our very own grammar girl, Minion. Do you want to unmute and
Oh
ask?
my.
Hey there. I was just wondering what your best efficiency tip is for editing, for like working with documents. Like you talk at the very end of your book about upping your game and improving your efficiency.
I think it really depends on the length of the work you are doing. When you're doing long works, like book length works, macros are going to be the thing that get you through and make you faster. We work at Right Touch Editing. We do a lot of short work. And the best efficiency tip I have for that is we keep a running style sheet and just really always checking the style sheet. And I know that sounds like, well, slow down and do it. But when you work on short stuff, it's really easy to forget. And to be efficient, just go look at the style sheet rather than thinking it through or looking it up or sitting there and saying, well, is this? Just go look it up.
Just go look it up. I did a presentation on tips for, efficiency and things like that. And just look it up is really the one of the first tips. I mean, that really does it all. So you also do, you've done teaching. You've done plenty of panels and workshops and presentations and webinars. You did lots with copy editing. You organized them as well as presenting them yourself. And now you're doing editor coaching. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
So, I offer 1 hour sessions, and most people book just an hour, but you can, do monthly check-ins, or more often if you want. But it's really about what's that thing that's getting you stuck. Let's talk about where you're at. And coaching is about helping the coachee come up with their own questions and answer their own questions. But it can be hard to do that, right? It all gets locked in your head, and having someone show you a mirror or ask you the right questions that get you thinking is what makes it work. And it's what I like doing, because often it seems obvious to me, but again, when you're locked in your own head, you can't see it. And to see the light bulb go off, to see someone go, oh, all right, now I know what I'm going to do. And they go off and they do it. It's so exciting. I really enjoy doing that. So whether it's, a small business question, or I need to restructure my business and I need ongoing support to do it, those are the kinds of things I'm trying to help folks with.
So, I mean, coaching is kind of a one-on-one thing, a conversation. And as I mentioned, you've done a lot of teaching, a lot of presentations, sometimes to an audience you can't see in a webinar. Do you like that? Is that something you enjoy doing?
I do. Yeah, I think I wouldn't keep doing it if I didn't. I enjoy putting together something to share with somebody else, and then presenting it. I enjoy getting questions from the audience, and that's really when we all learn, right? The questions I hadn't thought of, where they bring something else to the table and we all get something out of it. I really enjoy that.
Okay. Are you doing any active teaching now?
I'm not doing any coursework right now. I used to work for UC San Diego in their certificate program several years ago. But it was one of those things where I was doing that, and I was running Right Touch Editing, and I was working on copy editing, and something had to give.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you do. So have you learned your lesson? Are we gonna talk to you in a year and you're gonna say, oh, I've got way too much on my plate?
I'm sure I'm gonna say I've got way too much on my plate. I'm really, really good at that.
I know. I find you a model for, overtly for kind of having it all together. Not always. Not seeming like you're being pulled in several directions. Seems like you're a person who plans and sort of has things figured out, more or less.
I am very much a planner. I love lists. I love, what's going on. I want to put something in my calendar 3 months from now, so I know what's coming up. I don't always leave myself enough downtime, but I do. I am very organized, and I like to organize.
Mm-hmm. So let me get one more thing. What would a new person most take from this book? What would an experienced editor most take from this book? Sorry, that's 2 questions and both are very broad, but I think you can handle it.
I think when you're new, it's overwhelming. right? And so I think the first few chapters are a good roadmap. And you can do them in the order you want to. I put them in the order that made the most sense to me, which is starting with your passion. What is it you want to do? Because I think we all go, well, I'm going to work for anybody. I will take any subject. I'm going to do all the levels of editing, and it's too much. And it's far better, I think, to start with one, right? One audience, one media type, one editing level of editing, and start that way. But it is, I walk you through all of those. How do you get this business up and running? What are those things? What are those silly little things you're not going to think about that, oh, yeah, right. This should be part of my process. So I think that's what new people will get out of it. I think for those of us who are experienced, it's, an opportunity to look at our businesses and say, well, where am I feeling a pain point? Where am I, what am I not happy with? Or picking up those efficiency tips that seem small, but can make a huge difference in your day and just help you to be, I don't want to say more productive, help you to be more balanced and to be happier with your work life.
All right. Well, thank you so very much. The book is The Chicago Guide for Freelance Editors, with a long subhead there that you'll have to look up online. You can pre-order it from University of Chicago Press and wherever other places you get your books. We have, I wanted to say we've had a lot of questions about our episode just last week. It seems so long ago. Just Friday afternoon, we talked to Russell Harper from the Chicago Manual of Style, where we gave you your first look at the 18th edition. And we're working on getting that up on YouTube. So I just came in from the woods today, so give us a little bit of time, and we'll get that up. Coming up, we have Cory Doctorow, who I got to do some research here. Really cool guest. I won't be able to just come in from the woods and talk to him. I'll do a little bit of research before that one. I literally, Erin and I have been such good friends for such a long time that it's, this is a conversation we might have sitting down at Ace's over lunch. So it was great, wonderful, easy to talk to you. Also, speaking of easy to talk to, we have Karen Yin, my good friend Karen Yin, coming up. And I've got another share screen here. James Harbeck took this picture. There's Karen, our next guest, Erin on the right, and then your hosts, Heather and me in the middle. This is late. This is before I got my flight, because I did the overnight back to be here for the eclipse. So it was wonderful having dinner with you and your husband, Bill, and Lori Paximades was there. And I'm so excited that Karen Yin, who also has a book coming out, The Conscious Style Guide in book form, finally, and that's coming up next month, and I think it's coming out in May. So that, I think that's all the excitement, and there's a lot of it. But thank you so much for all you've done, Erin, for the editing community. I'm still sharing my screen. Thank you congratulations for the Robinson Prize, well deserved. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you in a few weeks.